Truth be told, I didn't want to be a mentor. I didn't think I had what it took to lead other students to success when I was struggling to stay afloat myself. It wasn't until my anatomy professor, Dr. Yard, took special interest in me and wanted me to be a mentor for his course. I felt extremely honored that he saw this kind of potential in me because I looked up to him. After much deliberation, I finally decided to look into it. This is when I came across academic success coaching. I knew that the one-on-one mentoring would be much better for me because I didn't know how I could manage a classroom full of other college students. With that being said, I took a leap of faith and applied for the position. I remember my first semester as a mentor like it was yesterday. I walked into my first coaching meeting extremely nervous because I thought that my student wasn't going to like me, which in turn would damage our chances of building rapport. I was also afraid that my student was going to think that I wasn't skilled enough to help them with their struggles. I didn't think that I could be the leader that they needed because I was still a young college kid myself. Thankfully, that wasn't how my first meeting went at all. Don't get me wrong, it was still a bit rocky, but it went much better than expected. Along with that, my coordinators and fellow coaches provided me with some great feedback, as well as some confidence boosters to help me get through the semester. It took me a whole semester to get comfortable having meetings with students. Each and every student is unique in their own way, which makes this position so interesting and challenging. I'm constantly learning how to address different situations with my students because of their personalities. That is the best aspect of this position as a coach. I'm constantly being forced to adapt to different learning styles. However, this was probably the hardest thing for me to adjust to, simply because I've always believed that there was only one way to study and one way to be successful in school. The reason behind this belief was the fact that I was very close-minded and I only knew how to study one way. Eventually, I was able to see that even though one method of studying may work for one student, it won't necessarily work for another. This in turn helped me become more creative in my studying so that I could come up with new methods to share with my students. Over the semesters, I have learned a lot about myself and about leadership. I never considered myself to be a leader simply because I didn't fit the criteria of what I thought it took to be one. I didn't see myself as a person that other people could look up to when they're struggling. However, after completing multiple assignments that were required for my position, I really got to thinking that I actually am a leader. I realized that leading from behind is a way I prefer to mentor because it gives my students the opportunity to learn and grow from the experience. It's like that saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. This applies to mentoring because we cannot provide our students with all of the answers and expect them to learn anything from that. It is important to guide our students in a way that will allow them to be self-proficient whenever the time comes for the mentoring relationship to end. One thing that I have definitely taken away from this class is the fact that active learning plays an important role in and out of the classroom. Jennifer L. Faust and Donald R. Paulson wrote an article titled Active Learning in the College Classroom, which discussed the benefits of supplemental active learning techniques along with lectures. Besides academic advantages, numerous social and psychological benefits come from active learning, as well as improved attitude and retention. As stated in the article, a recent review of research on cooperative learning found that it boosts development of critical thinking skills and fosters social interdependence and support among students. This article stood out to me the most because I knew that active learning plays a crucial role in mentoring. Additionally, quite a few exercises were described in this article that I've been able to use and incorporate in my own meetings. Like I mentioned previously, my first semester was a bit rough. I would typically sit in a cubicle and read one of the BLC's handouts to my students and just hope for the best. After a while, I realized that this method wasn't working. These students sit through plenty of enough lectures the way it is and didn't need another one from me. With that being said, I try to turn the handouts into creative activity. For example, I would create my own funny test to give to my students whenever we would talk about test-taking strategies or anxiety. I would create flashcards with random information on them and use them to aid in the process of self-testing. I like to have fun, laid back meetings so that my students feel comfortable in asking me for help without the fear of judgment. And most importantly, I learned that it is important to ask my students for their feedback at the end of our meetings. This not only helps me better tailor our meetings to their specific needs, but it also gives me a way to gauge how well the student comprehended the lesson that was being discussed. As my professional mentoring experience is coming to a close, I can easily say that I understand my learning needs a lot better than before. I'm able to adjust a lot easier if my studying methods aren't working like I had hoped. I used to get frustrated and just give up altogether if I couldn't get the information to stick in my head. Now, I'm able to take a step back and survey the situation and think about what I could do that would improve my studying. I've also learned a lot about how to ask for help when I need it. I used to be afraid of doing that because I saw that as a sign of weakness and giving up, but now I see it as a sign of strength. I would definitely miss being a mentor for the BLC, but I wouldn't trade my experience for the world.